Hi, I'm Marguerite Nassarian, art teacher at Winchester High School.
How do you connect with the Armenian Genocide?
Well, my ancestors were involved in it. They were victims of it. This is World War I, that period of time, and even before that.
And why do you think it's a neglected subject?
I think it's a lot of politics. Um, well, let's talk about it. Turkey is in denial of it, and the USA supports Turkey not because of the genocide, but because their air base is over in Turkey. And this goes back in time. Back in the old days, in that part of the world, there were a lot of Armenians and Greeks and other races. And when the Ottoman Turks came in,
Tell me your opinion on why the Armenian Genocide happened.
Armenian Genocide happened in 1915, starting 1915, and Ottoman Empire was against Armenians getting stronger and educated. We had a lot of Armenian doctors, lawyers, poets, and they were succeeding in their life. So Ottoman Empire didn't like that, so he decided, and we are first Christian nation, first Christian nation, so they didn't like that. So they decided to kill all Armenians who were living in Turkey. So in one day, they killed more than a million Armenian people. Most of them were men, and women and kids had to leave their homes and go to different countries like Syria or Lebanon. A lot of them came to America, but most of the men were killed, so the Armenian nation wouldn't grow. They wanted to kill all Armenian men to erase a nation from this earth. But as you can see, it didn't happen, so Armenian is strong and we're still growing. Thank you.
And why do you think it's a neglected subject?
I think it's a lot of politics. Well, let's talk about it. Turkey is in denial of it, and the USA supports Turkey not because of the genocide, but because their air base is over in Turkey. And this goes back in time. Back in the old days, in that part of the world, there were a lot of Armenians and Greeks and other races. And when the Ottoman Turks came into that part of the world in the 1500s, they occupied the area, and their dictator, the Sultan, took over Eastern Europe, and Armenia was included, and all the way down to Egypt. And there's of the people who live there and want to use their brains. So you had nomads versus city dwellers. That started. Two different religions. You had Muslim religion versus Christian religion. That made a difference. Now, in later times, like just before World War I, there were a group of Turks who wanted to set up a new type of government, kind of Western, and they affiliated with the Germans. The French were in that part of the world as well, and they couldn't handle it. They were mainly located on the east coast of the Mediterranean, and then the British came in. Meantime, Russia, who was a friend of any Christian nation, including the Greeks, because they adopted the Greek Orthodox religion, what happened is when they were having issues with the Turks, the Muslim invasions, and the Russians, there were the white Russians and the red Russians fighting over who was going to take over. The communists took over, and the Russian Tsar was assassinated along with his family. They were the protectors of the Armenians at that time, and there were wars in the Balkan area, and every so often you hear about it. Well, what happened is the Germans decided they wanted to fight the Russians. So they came down, looked over the area, and taught the Turks how to develop better warfare. And the idea was to get rid of the Armenians. So the genocide really started there. That idea, that concept, what do we do with the Armenians? And the Germans said, well, they did nothing during World War I, so who cares? And the U.S. presidents at the time, the League of Nations started with Woodrow Wilson, but he didn't want to get involved because they felt they were going to be sucked into Europe. There's more to the story. So eventually, what happened is that they went from city to city and town to town in what would be called, where Turkey is today, and tried to destroy the Armenians. Some of them were in forced marches to Desert, which is a desert area in Iraq today. And my great-grandparents would march there with families over 1,000 miles. Some died en route.